Welcome on in, everyone. Yes, it is me. I'm still alive. I know some of you have emailed me. My apologies. I will return your emails. It's been hard. It's been hard for me to communicate, but I hope you enjoy the views. And by the time you're seeing this, I'm no longer at this location. So let me say I am here in Galveston, Texas in this video, and the whole video long I'm going to show you the sights. So make sure that you sit back, get your hot tea or coffee or whatever makes you happy, and come ride the ferry with me, right? That's where I'm at right now in this video. And then later on, as the video progresses, you can ride shotgun with me, and I'll show you around the streets of Galveston, and we'll walk the beach as well. So we are going to have a lot to talk about, a lot to view here. No, I'm not on camera. Well, if you watch to the very, very end, I'll show you a little bit. I'm kind of camera shy right now, so I'll just show you a little bit at the very end of me if you want to see how I'm doing. But enjoy these views while we talk about this new moon Aquarius, which I'm pretty excited about. Now, I don't know if you can hear me in this video. I'm talking to the guy on the ferry about seeing dolphins. Y'all let me know if you can see this dolphin popping up through the water. I can't see it on camera, but I know I saw it with my own naked eyes. And so we were... Yeah. So if you ever ride the ferry in Galveston, look for the dolphins. Okay. He didn't come back. He didn't come back. But I don't know, maybe it was a sign of good luck. Who knows? I gotta look up the animal totem for that, okay? I can't believe I'm just not thinking, why didn't I look up the animal totem for that? Somebody can put that in the comments down below. That's an omen. Seeing a dolphin. Rare sight. Alright, so let me say that I'm going to start this video with, talking about this new moon in Aquarius, which, I mean, how can I not talk about it as an Aquarian? And collectively it's super important to all of us. And I will relate also to how this energy is going to impact us on a personal, professional level, and even the world at large. And then if you stick to the very end, like I said, I will do a little bit of personal sharing about myself, what my time off has been like, and you see a little bit of me at the very end. Okay, so let's get started with this new moon in Aquarius on January 21st, and in some parts of the world, in the UK, the 22nd. Well, of course, new moons are about new beginnings, but in Aquarius, we're looking at something very future focused. Okay, we're looking at something very forward thinking, looking at what does tomorrow bring, and it's also a very intuitive, intelligent energy. So from 2 weeks onward, we're looking at a lot of forward movement, and maybe even taking a new direction in life, especially when you take into consideration that we have no retrogrades over the next 2 months. So I'm just going to say this, and I've said this to my clients. If you want to launch something, if you want to start something new, okay, that you are reaping benefits over during the course of this year, now is the time to do it. Hopefully that new moon in Capricorn that we had, all that Capricorn energy that we went through, had you looking at goals and ambitions and maybe overcoming challenges and obstacles in your life, okay? And so hopefully now you have, also with Mars retrograde in Gemini, you know, a lot of, and Uranus retrograde, we've had a lot of time to reflect on what now, what are we going to do that's new, what next, okay? So now's the time with this new moon in Aquarius to really execute. And that new beginning definitely is unfolding over the next 2 weeks of a lot of go type of energy, but also coming into culmination at the end of this year, August 30th, 2023, when we have a full moon in Aquarius. So by the time we get into that full moon in Aquarius at the end of the year, there's going to be a lot of retrograde energy. Okay, so that is not going to be a time to, you know, sit on your tuchus and decide, oh, well, maybe I should do it then. No. Now's go time. It's go time. Hit the ground running, and hopefully the last couple months have put a fire under your rear, as it has mine. Some of us more painfully than others, but I digress. Hopefully you know your direction and what's next, alright? And it's good time. So those that are going to be most impacted by this energy are the fixed signs. Taurus, Leo, Scorpio, but especially Aquarius, Aquarius risings, any Aquarius placements, right? I've got my sun, midheaven, Mercury in Aquarius, so very much impacted. And with us talking about, you know, fixed energy here, that Uranian energy is really pushing us to look at what needs to be changed, right? Uranus was retrograde the lad few months, so we were maybe stuck on something, and we had to reflect and look at what do I need to change or improve in Uranus, okay? And with it in a fixed sign, Aquarius, not Uranus, that is, it's in Uranus is in Taurus, but the new moon is in Aquarius, another fixed sign, right? So with this fixed energy, change is not really easy, right? I'm double fixed. I've got a sun in Aquarius and a Taurus rising, so I don't like to change unless I'm bringing it. But with Saturn in our sign of Aquarius, you know, we haven't been very successful at bringing a lot of change, right? There's been a lot of constriction, limitation, karma, heaviness upon us. Oh, but that's shifting, praise God, hallelujah, with Saturn this March moving out of Aquarius and and Pluto moving into Aquarius. I'll talk more about that in a moment, but suffice it to say, you know, change is not going to be easy in these signs. But Uranus is a heavy hitter and is not going to go quietly into the night. You know, we've got another 2.5 years of Taurus saying, "Hey, you got to change your values." You know, and we've been dealing with that since 2019. So it's time to deal. Deal and heal is what I'm hearing. And not easy stuff in fixed signs, but you gotta do it. You gotta, okay? Also, with this new moon in Aquarius, think back to what happened with the new moon in Scorpio. Again, Scorpio's fellow fixed sign, but that was back in October 23rd with the eclipse. Holy moly, right? That was a lunar eclipse of Scorpio. So, quite profound. It was very much provoking profound change and renewal in us, though quite possibly painful, okay, where we were digging up some very deep issues toward the end of October. So think of what was going on with you at that time, I was beginning to have some very profound revelations and realizing that something that I thought was stable and secure, or that I was going to be able to stabilize and secure, was not. Realizing my support system was not actually very supportive after all. So, if you think back during that time and what you were going through, that new moon in Scorpio was bringing about profound change and renewal on more of a personal, intimate level, whereas now this profound change with the new moon in Aquarius is occurring more on a social, relational level. So again, think back, what has changed since late October for you? Has there been some major disruption or upheaval in your life? I mean, I could definitely testify to that. But then again, I'm an Aquarian and Saturn's been in Aquarius, all right? So we possibly have, been dealing with the brunt of these things, although I do feel some compassion for the Scorpios. My goodness. Taurus have, with the nodes in Taurus and Scorpio, that's not been a picnic either, right? They have not had it easy. But I would say, yeah, that's, again, the Leos reflect Aquarius, right? So again, I'd say all the fixed signs have really been pushed, pressured energetically to boldly break out of some things, maybe break some rules now, particularly now with the new moon in Aquarius. Like, what rules need to be kept and what rules need to be broken? And it could be rules that you put upon yourself, internal inner vows, right? Or maybe others putting their expectations upon you, or society, or whatever. But you are having to look at letting go of something that perhaps held you back in your past. And whatever has been going on since late October up until this point, these energies have been shedding a light on what you need to eliminate or cut out of your life so that you're no longer held back by the past. Now, at the time of this new moon in Aquarius, there's a lot of air energy. We've got 2 air trines, so the communications and ideas are really flowing at this time. Plus, as we move more into mid-year, with the North Node shifting into Aries, we're getting a lot more of this. I personally feel the new moon is setting the tone for what's coming with the nodes shifting mid-year in Aries, where we are becoming a lot more mindful over the next 7 months or so about individualism, having a free spirit. That's something, by the way, that Aquarius has in common with Aries that I absolutely love about Aries. And so I really feel like we're coming into this year with this new moon in Aquarius, where it's really setting the tone of what about you? And by July, the nodes are definitely driving that home. And then, we're moving into, March time frame where Pluto is going into Aquarius and Saturn is moving out of Aquarius. Thank God. So the restrictions that maybe have been there for the last 2.5 years on individual freedom, liberty, having a more free-spirited, outspoken nature, having a more autonomous, self-directed path in life, there's been a lot of holding back, not just on the, Aquarians, but collectively, right? Because Aquarius represents humanity, society. So we're getting, I'm looking at the first half of this year, really, with all this Aquarian energy and the new moon up until, the node shifting into Aries. And I'm just seeing this energetic theme, this push of the shackles coming off of people's individual freedoms, okay, that have been there over the last 2.5 years, and people taking a more self-directed, autonomous path in life, which is a beautiful thing. However, with Pluto going into Aquarius, again, intense change and transformation having to do with all things Aquarius. And I will say, at the time of this new moon, Pluto is still in Capricorn at 28 degrees, but it's not far from the sun in Aquarius at 2 degrees and the moon. So there's definitely a spotlight on the 21st of January, 22nd, right? Spotlight on what needs to change in your life, and to know specifically in what area of your life that change needs to happen. Look at where what house Aquarius is showing up in your natal chart, okay? Because, this is big changes coming for Aquarians, but all things Aquarius, intense, profound changes. And I will say, for me as an Aquarian with my Aquarius stellium, woo! Serious wake-up calls. Sweet Jesus. I mean, a nice slap in the face, right? Super sober, okay? But no going back to the old way. No going back to the old way. Now, also realize that, day after this new moon, we've got Uranus going direct in Taurus. So that's helping move change forward. And this change that you're moving forward is quite possibly having to do with things that you've been reassessing since August of last year, 2022. Things that you maybe wanted to change, or you struggled to change, but you couldn't quite do it. Maybe felt stuck. Finally, coming out of this retrograde, you have a lot more clarity, and you know what needs to be done, and you're able to energetically, better able to, I should say. And at the time of this new moon, Ceres in Libra is going to be opposing Jupiter, Chiron, and Juno in Aries. So I do think that there will be some kind of challenge between, what you need to do to nurture relationships versus how you go about getting personal expansion. And yes, this might bring up some painful self-worth issues that are being triggered at this time, especially with Chiron and Aries babies like myself, right? The 70s kids. We were born during that generation of Chiron and Aries. So we especially are, feeling the pain of maybe feeling that people don't value us, or they're not returning value. They don't share values. Again, tying back into South Node in, the nodes in these houses having to do with values, okay? In some way, perhaps what you need is at odds with what others need, or what you value is at odds with what others value. Especially in terms of, what is required to nurture yourself and your relationships. And then with Pallas in Cancer opposing Mercury in Capricorn, I think this is bringing up issues having to do with a sense of inner security and a sense of belonging. And we could be talking about, material or emotional insecurities, okay, getting very much triggered during this time. So, these themes of self versus others that are already coming up with this new moon in Aquarius are going to continue well into the year, especially as the nodes shift on July 18th with the North Node in Aries, the South Node in Libra, right? It's a lot of self versus others energy. And then I will say shortly after this new moon on the 26th of January, Venus is moving into Pisces. So, I'm hearing a lot of people doing their, token, predictable, talking about how this is going to be an emotionally detached lunar energy. Sorry, I got a pet peeve with that because, Aquarius is the most misunderstood sign of the zodiac. And I just, it's like somebody dragging their nails down a chalkboard when they go there to the emotionally detached explanation. No, we are not emotionally detached. We are emotionally contained, right? Because we're the water bearers. We hold water. What is water? It is emotion. It is spirit. We pour that out to humanity. So, no, we've got the water. The thing is, are we drained? Has humanity been draining us? How about that? Maybe let's think about that. But I will say, with Venus moving into Pisces, there's a lot of love there. Okay? A lot of love coming in right after this new moon. And so and as we move deeper into the month of February, we get even more Pisces energy coming online. So I'm just again gonna give a big boo to the emotionally detached. I think more than likely what's going to be happening is that part of this new beginning might involve releasing relationships with love, with care, with concern, maybe for the sake of the bigger picture. And, I'd say the only caveat here is, we have to be careful with idealism because both Aquarius and Pisces, very idealistic, especially Venus and Pisces on the 26th. Very idealistic. How do I know? I got an Aquarius stellium and a Pisces stellium. All right. So, it's been my gift curse in life. It's been my Achilles heel. And people say, you expect too much. Your expectations are too high. Your standards are too high. I'm like, no, I actually just thought that highly of you. And I had no idea you couldn't live up to it. Sorry. Whew, I'll save it to the end. But yeah, it's an issue that we have. So I just friendly reminder to everyone, including myself, let's try to stay grounded as much as possible. Especially considering all the air energy that we are in the midst of right now, there's a lightness to it, right? Not quite the heaviness that I think in the sludge that we've been in the last few months. Thank God for that relief. But what comes up must go down, and what's down is the ground. Like, don't let it smack you, right? Okay. Sorry. I had to keep it real there. It's got to be logical with the Aquarius energy. Not too pie in the sky. I mean, I do fancy myself for getting out in the stratosphere and ethers from time to time, but I've had some bad experiences with that, so let's just keep it balanced. Okay, moving on. How is this going to impact us on a personal level? This is going to be great energy for socializing, learning, teaching, maybe something that is new or is fulfilling in some way, and perhaps imparting some hard-earned wisdom to others from life lessons that you've gone through. Really good energy for re-envisioning your dreams, your goals, your ideals, and just life in general. Perhaps this time, though, taking an unconventional approach, breaking ranks or tradition, doing something unexpected. And again, I'm not going to parrot the typical non-aqua advice that you get out of people who are not Aquarians. Sorry, please, I got issues. Where they say, get out of your head, get out of your head. No, please do get in your head. The world needs more of that. We've had a lot of mindlessness in the, I digress. Great time to use your brain. The energy is supporting it. Okay, I'll just say it like that. So also good time to prioritize your personal freedom and your self-empowerment and embrace the uniqueness of yourself and that of others. But that may involve you marching to a different beat. It might involve doing something that is controversial or viewed by others as radical or unpopular or uncommon, unconventional, right? But through this, on an individual level, we could try to find some balance between being connected and being disconnected, right? Finding some middle ground between, the give and take in relationships, which Aquarians can, mess up on, right? We can get ourselves drained. And if you are in that situation, particularly if you're an Aquarian with this Saturn in Aquarius energy, this is a time to get replenished. And if that means you got to go solo and be selfish according to other people, then maybe you just need to go on and do that, okay? This is a time to advocate for yourself as much as others, if not more, and don't do the low vibrational Aquarian thing, the shadow Aquarian thing where you get lost in the crowd and group think and stuff like that. This is where you break ranks, okay? And yes, I think on an individual level, we're all going to be considering themes of belonging and like-mindedness and joining with people who have shared values. Particularly if you're coming from a situation where you felt like the outsider or the alien. Very Aquarian, themes there. But this is bridging that gap where you are moving out of that outsider type of feel by creating more conscious connections, which again might not be what you had originally envisioned. Professionally, this is going to be a good time for brainstorming ideas, communicating, learning, teaching, any type of intellectual pursuit. It's going to be good for expanding your network with like-minded people, perhaps doing collaborations with those who have a shared sense of purpose. It's good for rebranding yourself, your businesses with some out-of-box thinking. And consider taking on greater authenticity, autonomy in your work, and even accepting and working through the limitations that have been present with Saturn in Aquarius, right? Maybe surrendering something, right? I'll talk more about that in a little bit, but there's a lot of people that have been questioning their career, their life purpose, just generally, collectively. I know I have with Saturn in Aquarius in my 10th house, okay? But collectively, with Mercury retrograde in Capricorn and the last new moon in Capricorn, all the Capricornian energy, you may have been going through similar questioning within yourself for, different energetic reasons. But what I've come to realize from this is you've got to really know yourself and be sure of yourself and your path, and be resilient to the down times. Like when you're not really doing so well with your career, don't give up on something that is really where you're supposed to be. But if you doubt yourself, if you don't know that's where you're supposed to be, it can be hard to stay the course when the going gets tough, right? By the way, I have a life purpose destiny reading for any of you who are still processing that stuff or want some guidance. And you can connect with me on Etsy if you're interested in that. Or we can even do a financial reading over the next 12 months to look at, what's going on with your career and stuff like that if you're interested. Side note. But back on track, this is a good time professionally to launch any projects that you want to benefit from by the end of this year, specifically August with that full moon in Aquarius. Really good time. Finally, looking at the world at large, I'm just going to confess to you that I haven't been on my A game with this because I have had so much of my focus put on my private life. I will say briefly that this moon is very close to the United States natal Pluto return in the second house. So, bear in mind, as I said earlier, Pluto in Aquarius this March, that's happening. That's coming up for us. Values are profoundly changing for humanity at large. As you know, there's been a lot of talk about a monetary system reset. A lot of information coming out on the tail end of this, South Node in Scorpio that we've been going through the last year and a half, with news pieces on the vaccinated seem to be a common thread among the died suddenly crowd. And sadly, this is bringing, profound changes of values, not just to money, but just life matters in general, okay? I'm going to say, if you want to know more about this topic of how the astrology is hitting the world at large politically, check out Joseph P. Anthony, because, and Leo King, I've talked to Leo King, I've talked about Leo King a lot as a really good source, but also Joseph P. Anthony. He talked about this. He went into more detail, but we see with Kevin McCarthy, now the new Speaker of the House, who is, by the way, an Aquarian, a lot of change going on there. How much, that's yet to be seen. Is McCarthy going to be a people pleaser, which is the low vibrational, right? Trying to make everybody happy, getting lost in the crowd. And I think those 20 representatives who pushed back on him, they try to keep his behind in check and let him know, stop trying to make everybody happy, do the right thing. So is he going to continue on with his people-pleasing ways, or is he going to be a rebel and pro-liberty, pro-individual rights, pro-small limited government, or is he going to, go the other route? And I am seeing some news pieces coming out about, people trying to end the IRS, the income tax, nixing the 87,000 IRS agents that have been installed by Biden. Okay, so again, why do I bring the IRS up? Because we are talking about this, Taurus, Scorpio, change of values, Uranus and Taurus energy, where things are going on with the monetary system. And what do you know? We now have an Aquarian who is in this house, is the Speaker of the House now. And is he gonna bring the change? Is he the change maker? And I am hearing some people say, look out for Aquarians. Once Pluto goes into Aquarius in March, we might be bringing some major power plays to the table that people don't see coming. Also, I'm going to say, again, going back to this political stuff, we've got some themes from December into February of, the information war, the social media, exposés having to do with big tech collusion with big government, the surveillance state, censorship, stuff like that. We've seen news pieces with Biden's classified documents, right? Stories of him improperly storing these things in his personal closet or garage, which I thought, didn't they go after Trump for that in Mar-a-Lago? But now it's Biden, so wow, okay. And then we've got, stories of Matt Gaetz releasing thousands of hours of previously hidden January 6th film footage. Now that Nancy's gone, which, where's Nancy, right? But finally, with Uranus and the North Node in Taurus in the United States natal chart, in the fifth house till mid-year, we could see a lot of Americans rebelling against what's going on in the stock market and with the population growth. A lot of, by the way, stories of babies from vaxxed moms, and you know what I'm going to say, so let's not talk about it right now until, God willing, Elon buys out YouTube. And also, I would say fifth house can not only have to do with population growth issues, the stock market, but, Hollyweird, right? The celebrities, these sports celebrities that are, falling out suddenly, what's going on? The bread and circuses culture, the weapons of mass distraction, right? That we're getting with entertainment industry and sports and everything, so that people don't pay attention to the fact that they're getting robbed in broad daylight. Okay. But I do think that Americans are starting to push back and realize, stop listening to these celebrities. And if you're going to watch sports, look at these people falling out and dying on that. Right. We just had a recent story of an athlete falling out. Okay. And nobody wants to talk about it. Wasn't there a recent death of is it Priscilla Presley? Yes. Oh, but now you're not allowed to ask her vax status. Nobody's allowed to talk about that now. When people just fall out and die suddenly, well, we can't ask the vax status, even though they were asking us to go sit and have a Big Mac at McDonald's. Anywho, I digress. Okay, well, this recording that you're listening to is different from the last, right? I had to cut off at that point. My voice was getting scratchy. I was running out of, battery for filming, and so I cut it off thinking, I'll come back and finish up later. Later is like a week and a half now that you're hearing this recording, okay? Because little did I know that scratchy voice was a warning sign, an early warning sign. And so I've been recovering, and I put a notice out on my community page letting you guys know. Hopefully you saw it. Those of you who are subscribed and have activated the bell for notifications, you are probably notified. Those of you who are not are none the wiser. You're just now hearing about this. But thank you so much for those of you who've been patient. And so, yeah, hopefully you've been enjoying this video and all the views of Galveston. And, I'm in a totally new location right now that is beautiful, but in a different way. And I feel much more at home in this new location, which, as soon as I get a release in my spirit to share with you where I'm at, I will. But I've been, recovering, and I honestly feel like it was Spirit's way of telling me, sit down, rest, because as many of you know, I have been coming out of that second conjunction between Saturn and my natal sun in Aquarius. And thank God I made it through it. I've been telling y'all for probably a month or so now that I've been bracing for that impact, because I went through the initial impact last summer. And, I might do a little bit more sharing about that later. I'm wanting to put out a special on, Saturn and Aquarius in hindsight, right? Once we get out of that in March, I'm going to talk about it and share with you what that transit was like for me, particularly being Sun, midheaven, and Mercury in Aquarius. Not a picnic. And yeah, definitely for those of you, heads up, Pisces, y'all are up next. And so, and I know some of my Aquarian viewers are still, right, the latter degree born Aquarians still dealing with that. So
You just kind of have to lay low when Saturn's sitting right on your natal sun, because your natal sun is your vitality, right? It's your life force. It's the core of who you are. And so I had to really get quiet, and I have absolutely been going through very deeply personal things with this impacting that 10th and 4th house axis for me. Still processing a lot, getting a lot of heavy revies, right? Heavy revelations. And, my home and family issues have been triggered by this transit at such a deep, profound level. I will not be the same again, I'm sorry to say. But restructuring going on when we're talking about Saturn, so definitely, that's happening for me. And I hesitate to get too personal on here because you always run the risk of some people thinking, oh God, she's always being a negative Nancy, or oh, she's doing a pity party or whatever. And granted, some people who are listening to this, they, I want to believe the best in everybody, but right, we can only put so much of our life out there. But I will say that what I've been through over the last 2 months has been, it's unearthed issues within me that have been quite shaming, okay? And that's why I read that book, which I showed you that book from Galveston Library. It's by Brene Brown, talking about, I thought it was just me. And, I've went through an experience that you don't really want to talk to people about. You don't want to share it with a lot of people. But in time, as Spirit gives me release to open up about it, I will, because I do feel, especially after reading that book, all of us go through some type of life experience that we don't want people to know about, that's deeply shameful. We don't want to be seen in that light. And it could be something that maybe you feel you have within your control, or something that is external to you and completely out of your control. And I'm going to again go back to Saturn in the 10th house. 10th is very public, right? And so for me to have, this channel, and for my business to be online and my life to be very public and out there in the open, and then to go through something so private, 4th house, right? It's hard to not have your dirty laundry out in front of it. I think you know what I'm saying. And so the last couple months, there have been a lot of private family matters for me that I would have preferred to keep private. I think anybody in my circumstances would have preferred to keep private. But they were out of my control, decisions that others made. And me being an Aquarian, it's just kind of like, well, your hands are tied. You're dealing with karma. You're dealing with, well, who did you marry? Who did you have kids with? And, maybe you tried to get away from that. Maybe you tried to right those wrongs. But nevertheless, you had kids with this person. And now you're going through a transit where there's a lot of limitation and restriction being put upon all things Aquarius, your sun sign. And it's impacting your career, 10th house. And it's very public, 10th house. And the restrictions that you're dealing with are creating some counter restriction with your home, family, sense of belonging. So, right, I'm going to keep it generic at that level for now. But when I feel a release, I'll open up and I'll talk more about how exactly this hit me, because I do feel once I've turned this situation around and gotten some victory over it, God willing, I will be able to share with you how you might be able to do the same. And I think that's the empowering thing about when we go through situations that are very private, very painful, and very shameful, right? And we not wanting people to see us in that way. We can show our humanity by actually sharing with others that we're human too. We're not invincible. We've gone through challenges, and maybe share how to overcome it. Right now, I'm still, in a bit of a battlefield. I'm going to be perfectly honest with you. I'm coming out of it. I'm out of the worst of it. December was very hard, and like I said, that conjunction on the, it actually hit exact on the 11th of January. I got out of it, right? But hopefully it's up from here. Especially with that new moon in Aquarius, and I hope that was a good experience for y'all. I'm gonna say that I slept through it for the most part. I was setting positive intentions, but it was pretty ho-hum. And let me know down in the comments below how y'all did with that energy. I'm very hopeful as we're coming into Aquarius season that this was a time of new beginnings, launching, and I'm really optimistic that things are going to get better. I'm going to tell you, this beach that y'all are looking at, I could tell y'all some stories. Maybe some other time I will do a little Stephanie history. So much history with Galveston. Those of y'all who don't know, I was born and raised in Houston. So I've been to Galveston off and on through my life. But I actually had not been out there for probably 10 years. And I'm going to say I kept seeing hordes of black birds out there. And I kept thinking, what does this mean? What does this mean? And I kept praying while I was out there and really trying to reset my energy and connect with spirit. I actually laid a blanket down out there a couple times and just fell asleep on the beach. It was so healing. But yeah, I'd see those black birds and I'd be like, what does that mean? Because I know these animal totems, they mean something, especially scores of black birds. And finally, I was on YouTube, maybe a week ago, and I heard a reader say, that's your ancestors. And it's quite interesting because while I was out there walking the beach, praying, trying to reset my spirit, even walking barefoot through the water and the sand, believe it or not, in December and January, yes, I was doing that. But as I was doing that and really trying to connect with spirit, I did feel like the presence of my Sagittarius grandfather out there, and there were a few others that have passed over. I felt their presence out there, but I didn't realize until I left Galveston and heard some readers say, that's your ancestors. And it just like connected. So oddly, even out here at this new location I'm at, as I'm doing this audio recording, by the way, I'm looking at a large body of water. That's all I'm gonna say. Hopefully I'll share it with you video in the future of that, but I have been seeing a lot of blackbirds out here as well, so it's been very, very encouraging. Like, Spirit's trying to tell me you're not alone. And that's good. All right, well, I'm about to sign off now on that note, but I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you enjoyed all the visuals and felt like you got out and you got somewhere different. And I hope this inspires you to actually get off your tech and go out in nature and reset your energy like I have. And until next time, y'all be blessed.